Humidity, y'all.
Humidity.
In Arkansas, we have humidity.
Yes.
Have you heard of it?
Yes.
We invented it here,
That's why my hair stays in a hat most of the summer.
and we are very proud of it.
Are we?
No, we're ashamed of our humidity. Sorry, everyone.
Lies.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to another restoration video. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. And I think it's funny that it's been a minute because we kept saying, we don't have anything to show them. We don't have anything to show them. And then we started talking and we're like, we have enormous, monumental things to show them. But I think because we're there all the time, we forget.
That's true.
What it looked like.
That's
Should
true.
we take a moment to reflect on what the house looked like just like 6 months ago?
Yes.
So let's kind of go down the timeline since we purchased Hope Farm. We are just now at 1 year and 2 weeks since we bought Hope Farm.
The actual closing.
Right.
Right. And then we didn't really get started on work for another couple of months.
Well, you know what? I was thinking about that. We did not get our loan with we did not close our loan with the first bank.
Okay.
There's a new bank. But with the first bank until November the 10th.
Okay. That's
So
kind of what we were
we
waiting.
did not
I see.
start work until November. Real work,
Okay.
like demo, etc.
Yes.
It was either November the 10th or like October the 3rd. The 10th is sticking in my brain, but I mean, like it was right there.
I was trying to remember why we didn't start right away, and it's because
we didn't have
the
no money.
We needed some money. It's a big project, y'all.
Yes, we used all of our cash dollars to buy Hope Farm, and then we had to borrow some more dollars to buy Hope Farm. So then we had to wait for the loan so we could start. I don't know what you think our financial situation is. but
independent and wealthy
are not
not among the adverbs.
Adjectives. No, they're not even on the list.
Our adjectives are not
independent
and wealthy. We might be independent.
Our adjectives are dependent and poor.
So,
We depend on you.
yes.
So we didn't really get started until like October, November.
Okay. So we're really more like 8 months,
Yeah.
9 months of actual work.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we had somebody come over the other day and they were walking around and they were going, man, you've got a lot of work to do. And we do.
We do.
We have a lot of work to do. But we've come so far.
We started off with what looked like a house. Now
Well, in some areas,
like you drove up,
it looked like a house.
and it kind of still looked like a house.
The front did, yeah.
Even from the front, it kind of looked like a house. Even when you went to the L, where most of the damage was, the roof was still there. It had fallen down.
I mean,
It had collapsed.
If you look up far enough, there was nothing there.
Right, but when before we took the roof off and started the demo of all the burned debris, it didn't look like quite as bad.
Yeah.
And then we did the demo.
This episode is brought to you by Manucora Honey.
There's nothing I love more at the end of a long day of hard work than a cup of sweet, hot tea. But I'm on a new diet that says absolutely no simple carbs, which means no refined sugar. So how am I getting my delicious, sweet, hot tea? With a scoop of Manucora honey.
Manucora makes Manuka honey, a single origin honey that comes from New Zealand, where the bees only feed on the nectar of the Manuka tea tree, making honey that is pure, rich, and complex, with a creamier texture that is on a completely different level from the normal honey you find at the supermarket. Manuka honey is super rich in antioxidants and prebiotics and contains an antibacterial compound called MGO. Ultimately, this supports your optimal immune and digestive health. Manucora sent me a jar and a squeeze bottle of their MGO 850 Plus Manuka honey, their best-selling honey. The 850 Plus honey has this creamy caramel texture that melts in your mouth and is unlike anything I've ever tried. Head to manucora.com/restoration to get your Manucora and receive 3 free gifts with your starter kit, a $25 value. That's manucora.com, MANUKORA.com/restoration for the ultimate honey.
I really want to show you what everything looked like once the demo was finished and how long did it take us to get to
Take square
the
one,
starting
basically,
point?
yeah. I want to say 2 to 3 months.
I would say 3 months to get it.
Yeah. And we were mostly down to the studs.
Yeah.
Everywhere with no roof.
And in the L, the second floor of the L, I would say that a third of the interior structure also had to be rebuilt. We had one entire wall on the exterior that had to be rebuilt. It was gone. And then about a third of the interior structure. Yeah, and that's not even counting the ceiling joists. That's just like interior walls and framing gone.
The main house had most of the ceiling joists still. We did have to replace the kitchen and then one in the main parlor. Other than that, then a few in the bedroom.
So what's going to be the main bedroom? There was a lot of joist work to do. What's going to be the kitchen? All the ceiling had to be replaced. And all of this has just happened so slowly that it sort of feels like nothing's happened.
Yeah.
And yet
it was a big job to get the old roof off. That was huge. And then everything just cleaned up was huge. And
I mean, we still have whole areas that we have piles of demo debris. It's a 6,000 square foot structure altogether. And so the amount of just garbage that you have to haul away.
How many dumps did we do? It's 4 or 6.
I think we've done 6 40-yard dumpsters. And that does not include anything from the roof. All of the roofing materials went either into a pile to be reused for carpentry and construction, or were scrapped because there was a lot of metal. So the roof never even went into the dumpster. Those 6 dumpsters, 40-yard dumpsters, were just anything we couldn't salvage and reuse because we were so salvaging and reusing so much of that house.
Oh yeah.
We're at a point now, you've seen the roof, right? I hope you've seen the roof. If you haven't, you should go back and watch that video.
Watch the last video, watch the roof, because that was a big deal. Believe me. I know it just looks like a roof and every house has one. But it was a big deal for us because that's a little out of what we normally do. We don't put a new roof structure. We put roofs on houses all the time.
Yeah, but we don't rebuild a roof on a house that's standing there. On a house that's been standing there for 250 years. That was a different beast in and of itself. Let's talk about the little snafu we had that could have been really bad, but there was no avoiding it.
Right. There's a main house and then an L in this property, and the main house has a hip roof on the left and a gable on the right, The L has a hip roof on the left and a gable on the right, which is crazy.
But
in
that's
itself.
because it's been built, it started out 1770-ish, and then it was built onto in 1810, 1820, 1830. So all these roof lines are
Continually changing.
just changing.
Yeah.
Like there are roofs built over roof lines on both structures.
Right.
It's crazy.
So the hip on the main house actually has another strange hip that comes from the porch.
This tiny little, it was a tiny little baby hip.
I know, and
Probably like
it looked
10
very
feet.
weird.
It looks tiny baby hip, but it's probably like
Like
15 feet wide by 10 or 15 feet long initially.
Right. And it didn't go to the ridge point. It actually came over to a side and then it went up. And that's originally how we had it drawn back. But as we got in there and we started building the roof and our engineer was working with our carpenters, they ended up taking that hip all the way back to the ridge line.
And there's a reason for that. It wasn't just like, this is some arbitrary decision we've made. Obviously, when you were dealing with a 250-year-old structure, that roof was put on like that probably in 1840 when the house got its gallery. So it has been there for almost 200 years. Well, you think about the settling and the twisting that the house has done in that period of time. How many inches off is it from the front? It's like 10 inches off from the front to the back.
I don't remember, but I know the L was a good 8 or so.
Yeah, I think both houses have twisted.
Yeah, and we worked to straighten those as best we could.
But you can't get it straight.
You can't get everything straight. So
And
you
so
just have to build it in place, make it work.
When you're working with modern materials that are straight and don't bend, right? You can't bend a brand new 2x12 to fit what has happened in a building over 200 years. We had to make a concession with that pitch. And so instead of it being a baby weird pitch, now it runs all the way to the ridge line. And when the Historic Natchez Foundation saw that, they were like, oh no, that may cost you your tax credits. And so we had to go all the way up through MDAH, all the way through this National Park Service to get that approved. But luckily,
they agreed with us that that's just one of the concessions that we had to make.
They hated it, but
I think that they see that we're working as hard as we can to build it back exactly the way it was. We explained to them the reasons we had to make these changes, and they agreed with us. And I think that they can see we are doing our best to make it build it back exactly the way it was.
Right, but if exactly the way it was makes it not structurally sound because you can't recreate, you can't do that with modern materials because of the movement, we'll give you a break. But it was kind of cute because they sent us an email back and it was like, we'll give you this break. We totally understand. We see why you had to do it. Don't do anything else.
But you better watch yourself.
Watch yourself.
Yeah, don't take this and run with it. No, we're not going to do that anyway. But that's one thing, a hurdle that we just definitely had to jump.
Yeah, and it was scary. It was a scary couple of days because it was like, we've just finished this roof. And this problem, and it's finished. Like the shingles are on, everything's up. But we looked at it, and the tax credits are so valuable that we said it would be worth having to spend money now to redo this a year down the road when we're applying for tax credits.
Yeah, and I mean, you're probably going, well, why didn't y'all address that when it was framed before the shingles went on?
Well,
honestly, you can barely tell.
You can't see it
from the
unless
ground. You can't really tell. So,
and I don't go on the roof.
Right. So that's basically how it got that far.
Yeah. And of course the engineer and the builder, I don't think they thought they needed to ask us. I think they thought
we're making a good roof.
We're making it structurally
Right.
sound,
Yeah.
and it's going to look from the ground like it looked from the ground before. And so we're going to make sure that the roof doesn't fall in on you. And instead of, and they really were both like, there was no way you couldn't make this work. So it's all good.
But it's all good.
It's all good.
And we're going to move forward from here.
That was stressful. So then once we got that finished, then it was time to try to get the house in the dry.
So getting it into the dry is going to be, obviously, the roof is the biggest thing, but we've got to get all of the siding done. Beyond that, it's windows, which are going to take us longer.
Windows and door will be a long time.
But siding is a big deal.
Let's talk about what a massive, massive, massive deal. Because I think
a lot of square feet.
Again, because I haven't looked at the way that it looked before the siding in so long that I had forgotten how little structure there was enclosed at all, especially the L. The entire second floor of the L was just like open.
Just, hello.
Just open. No roof, No siding, nothing. About a third of the main house. On one side, an entire third, and then kind of around the well, no, that's a total lie. It was like over half, because the entire back gallery.
The entire back gallery, yes.
Was open. And then the side that will be our main bedroom, a third of it was open, and then just spots here and there where the fire had broken through.
Or firemen had broken through.
And a fireman had broken through.
So
it was,
yeah.
I would say that only about maybe a little over a third of the house had siding in place. And so
that was a big job.
Getting that siding on there has been unbelievable. To walk in and
it's
see,
all enclosed now.
It's weird.
It is weird.
You know, and I was really afraid when we put the roof on that it was going to feel much smaller inside. And it didn't. But I thought, well, it just doesn't feel smaller inside because the walls are still, there's no back of the house.
Yeah.
Well, then we got the back of the house on, and I'm like, no, it still feels huge.
Yeah.
These rooms are big rooms. There's not many of them, but they're big in the main house. So I was very pleased.
The next huge change will be when we get drywall put up, because then
Yeah.
you can't see through the house.
Yeah.
You'll really have designated rooms.
Yeah.
But they're all really a nice size, so I think it'll be.
Yeah, like the
it'll be
parlors
fine.
are 22 by 20.
It'll be fine.
It's going to be plenty of space.
Yeah.
But watching those guys, the reason you're not seeing us do a lot of this work right now, because this is just not, this is a type of house, a house of the type of importance that you don't necessarily want to DIY.
Yeah, it's not a DIY project.
Building a roof is not a DIY project. Re-siding your house where the siding is 50 feet in the air is not a DIY project. Wouldn't you say that, like, that side of the L is probably 50 feet? Maybe not.
Maybe not that high. No, it's probably 30, but
you know, at some
that's
point
really
it doesn't
high.
matter.
It's really high.
30 to 50, it's all the same.
If you've ever been up that high on a ladder or something, it's really, really high.
And we talked about doing it ourselves. We talked about we're going to do this.
Yeah, because of the siding, you square it up, you level it, and you nail it in. It's not that big a deal, but you get up that high in the air.
When one of you is really afraid of heights, like paralyzed afraid of heights.
Yeah.
The other one of you says, I really don't think this is something that we should try to tackle ourselves.
We're definitely using more help, and Brent and Mike helped us greatly with the siding. We've got lots of people helping us. We are doing a lot more DIY at the cottage right now.
That's when
we'll do more at the main house too when we get close.
When we get to the point where it's things that we are comfortable doing, right? Things that we do all the time, we will be doing those things. But that's going to be, I keep saying it's going to be a minute, but electrical's next. It's not going to be that long until we're really ready to get in there and start hitting it.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get HVAC going at the same time as electrical too. And then we get plumbing, and we're getting real. We're spending a lot of money, obviously, on those three big systems.
Yeah.
But once we get across those hurdles, then we're getting really close.
Yeah, we're making huge progress. Something else that has happened, we are so blessed. We found a master carpenter named John Cooper.
Hi, John.
Should I say his name? I
Sure.
don't know. I don't want other people to know. Who is, there's master carpenter, and then there's just like next level, someone who is a perfectionist, who not only can do the work.
That's what makes him different. He knows how to do it.
Yes.
But then he cares how it looks.
So deeply he cares about how it looks.
That's what's so good.
We have been so blessed. So the first couple of months John was working for us, he spent scraping char off of our pile of 300-year-old wood, hand planing it so that we can reuse it in building back a lot of these finished elements in the house. And John's most recent project has been to rebuild the back gallery, balustrade and columns. We knew this was going to be a challenge.
Yeah, guys, this is Greek revival. So everything is tapered. They did it to deceive the eye, basically, to make things look taller or wider or whatever they wanted to do. So every column is actually tapered bottom to top about 2 inches, I think.
Yeah.
And every spindle is tapered.
Every spindle.
So, it feels like we should talk about this for 20 minutes because, guys, that's hard to do. You've got to basically create a template for each one of these, and then run every spindle.
How many spindles
through?
Like 160
did he make?
spindles?
Probably, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But you've got to run it through your table saw four
Four
times each one. You're not just cutting it off and cutting it down. You got to run it through 4 times. That's after you cut it to length.
And a lot of it, he used that old lumber, that 250-year-old lumber, which is hard as a frickin' rock, which is fabulous
Yes.
because it will last forever. We're reusing the
It's
material.
not gonna
It's
twist,
going back into the
bends.
house, which is, I love to look at what he's created and to know that a large portion of it has been in the house for 250 years. This isn't new, all new material, all new wood. But this isn't a new gallery. It's the same wood that was holding the roof up, and now it's holding the gallery up. The house, of course, isn't level. Let's talk about that for a minute. Old houses are never going
Yeah.
to be level.
Yeah.
No matter what you do. This house, we picked up off the foundation, put a new foundation underneath it, set it back down again, and our furniture tilts all over the place. A historic home, no matter what you do, is going to have buckles and rolls in the floor. You're never going to get it 100% bubble on plumb.
You better level your
Level.
furniture.
You've got to level your furniture. We had somebody.
Because
I'm annoyed about this because I heard somebody griping last week about there's a spot in this house that's not level.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That house is 120
buy
years old.
a new house.
Buy
It'll
a
be
new
level
house
for a good 10 or 15 years.
if you're lucky.
And maybe buy a new house. I don't know.
But beyond that, well, my point on that is the gallery, of course, at Hope Farm is wildly not level. And he had to take those tapered columns and level them. I mean, it's unbelievably difficult because you can't put a level up against it because the column tapers.
That's the other thing. It tapers, so you can't just put a level against it. So he's using a plumb line on 2 sides to get it straight.
Where it at least visually appears straight.
So yeah, I feel like we need to talk about spindles and
know.
columns for 30 minutes because that's how hard it was for him to do that. But he's done a masterful job, and we're so proud of what he's accomplished, and
I'm in awe.
he should be.
I'm in awe of what he's done. I think I'm very persnickety about things. This man is unbelievable. Let's talk about the work that he's doing on the L Gallery because we've got some pictures that we can share of that. We're starting the L Gallery, and it is even more challenging because, of course, everything is built differently. Like I said, this house was built in 4 different time periods, at least 4 different time periods. So construction methods
And
change.
This gallery, the balustrade on the L is not. It's nothing like
Nothing.
the balustrade on the main house. But we're actually very fortunate because the main house, we still have the balustrade on the front porch.
Yes.
And so he was able to use it as a guide on the back gallery.
Yeah.
And then on the L, we have complete drawings of everything, at least from 1936.
So let me talk about the
Yeah.
HABs. So
Yeah,
people
tell
know,
them about
'cause,
the HABs.
people
They probably
ask all
don't
the
even
time.
know.
So as part of the WPA, during the Depression, there was commissioned the Historic American Building Survey, otherwise known as the HABs. And the United States government sent architects, architectural students out into the country and said, record our historic structures. And they were given different places to go, different structures to record. And they created drawings in 1936 that are down to the infinitesimal detail. So, I mean, we are talking minuscule measurements, profiles of every single element of the buildings they recorded. Now, we are so lucky at Hope Farm that they did the L. Our L is recorded down to its minutia. How deep are the window frames? How thick are the balusters? They didn't do the main house.
To tell them why.
So because they thought that the L was the older
They
building.
thought the L was older and more important when it actually was
Is the other
20
way.
to 30 years later.
Yeah.
built.
But we are, because I really think we're very fortunate because more damage was
Right.
sustained on the L,
Yeah,
and
and
we
we-
had nothing to copy. So we
We
would
need
have
them more there.
no idea. All of the interior doors, everything. I'm sure Kevin will be showing them to you here, but every single detail of that. So we were able to hand those to John
Yeah.
and say, make it.
Here.
Here.
So he's actually got plans. He's over there going, man,
So today,
it's way easier.
Just today, he sent us his template for the bottom rail of the balustrade, and the way it sits, its top, so your bottom rail runs like this, and then you see it from the side, it looks like this, but from the edge, it's pyramidal. And each then of the, here, you be the baluster.
And then the baluster actually is like this and sits
over
down
top of
over
it.
top.
He's finished, he's cut all of the balusters with that little thing.
And these aren't tapered.
And these are not tapered, they're tall and skinny. They're
tall and
3/4 of an
skinny.
inch, which we discovered after he'd cut 160 half inch. We were like, no, they're 3/4 of an inch. Anyway, so we recut them. Not we meaning me and the John Cooper in my pocket. John Cooper recut them. So he's got that, and I love the way he works. It makes me really happy because it feels like it's really fast. He makes all of his parts, all the parts, and then he puts it all together. So it's not like you're seeing like a little section go up and a little section go up, and you literally, like, it feels like there's nothing happening for 2 weeks, and then you show up one morning and the entire gallery is done. It's great.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
I'm hoping that it's going to be done when we get back.
I think the only thing that may slow him down on this one is that he's got to do those 12-foot.
Oh yeah, the columns
chamfered columns.
Yeah, and then there's some discussion because we know
From the halves.
well in 36 there were 4 round columns and the rest were chamfered.
Right.
They were all chamfered downstairs on the lower gallery.
No, they were two round from the first build period of the L. 2 round up, 2 round down.
Oh really?
Yeah.
No,
So
there's
that's-
4 round at the top.
Oh, is it 4 round on the halves?
top.
Okay, then
On the top there is.
I'm a liar. Over
Before
time,
it burned, when we bought the property, there were only 2 round columns left.
Were there 2, or was there just the one?
No, there was 2.
Okay, all
But
right.
the one burned really bad.
Okay, that's
badly.
right.
So there's some discussion now too as to do we put back 4 round or they're going to be way harder to make too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, I would rather do the more chamfered.
Well, it's going to be more visually pleasing with chamfered
Yeah,
because
because
the
it
ones
doesn't
you
mix.
see will all be chamfered. This is where, as an architectural historian, it becomes very difficult for me because when I'm doing we are considering this a restoration in a really true sense of the word in many ways. And so that restoration bone in me wants to put it back just like it was. But the
Original.
right.
Because
But
before
the-
it burned, it wasn't that way.
But the budget and the just preservationist and the rehabilitationist in me is like, no, it's fine. They've been chamfered columns probably for the last 70 years. Should we tell them what a chamfered column is? Because we keep saying
Sure.
chamfered like
Well,
people
I'll
know.
show them one right now.
This is a chamfered column. That's what this means.
Yes.
So when you see these now and you go on a historic home tours and you see those, you can be like, oh, a chamfered column, and
Oh,
sound like you're
yes.
really, really smart.
Yes.
I think this would be a great time to go look at a true before swing of the main house in the gallery and then where we are now with the main house in the gallery.
Also, while we're working on the roof, we had them come back and put vents in, which you have to have in your roof.
Yeah, gotta have roof
It's actually code. And we have vents on both gables that were already there.
Yeah.
And so along with those on the roof, we should be good for ventilation.
Yeah, which I hate roof vents, but in the South you have to
You
have
have to have them.
You
and
have to
so
have
you
them.
hide them the best way you
Yes, and we still have to like rebuild chimneys and stuff, so they're kind of strategically hidden behind a lot of things, but they're there. They're great. Mark Rice did an incredible job on the roof for us. He did just amazing work. If you're in Natchez and you need a roof guy, Mark Rice is your guy. We can highly recommend him and his crew. Boy, they got that roof on in no time, like you saw before. Something else I want to talk about John Cooper.
Oh,
Because it is really hard to find people who take working very seriously. There was a period of time, so John needed some specialty tools, so we had ordered the tools. And there was kind of like nothing for him to do while we were waiting on the tools to come. So John came. One of the major things that I was really dreading having to do, because I hate to strip paint, obviously all the trim in the house is salvageable, but it's going to have to all be stripped. And two of the biggest monsters were these 2 pocket doors that we have that are 9 feet tall.
They are huge.
And what did he tell us they weighed, like 120 pounds a piece?
Oh, I'd say, yeah, that easily.
Yeah.
Not more.
And they had to be completely stripped of their paint all the way down, and the final coat was milk paint. Now, I know that sounds like, well, that's no big deal. Milk paint, that should come right off. No. Strippers don't take milk paint off. Heat guns don't take milk paint off. Milk paint is literally Satan incarnate when it comes to paint. And it was often used as the base coat for faux bois. So they would start with this coat of milk paint, which basically was milk and lime. And it just, when it reconstitutes, it basically turns back into lime. Anyway, it's
like having rock on your
yes.
wood.
Yeah.
And the only thing that gets it off is really hard work and a lot of scraping.
A lot of scraping and a
And
lot of
that's what
sanding.
John did with. So yeah, he's sitting there with. He's like, I can't. They wanted me to work on the windows. I can't work on the windows yet because I don't have my tools. So let me just go ahead and knock
Go
these
ahead
out.
and- Go ahead and take these 120-pound pocket doors out of the pocket, gently remove the trim, take them down, clean up their hardware, and just completely strip these doors down for them. Well, I was gone. We were gone for a week. That's what John did.
Yeah.
And he sent us this video. He's like, look, your pocket doors are stripped.
And we didn't know he was doing it at all.
Literally wanted to kiss the man when I saw what he had done. Now he's gotten himself in trouble because now I know he can do it. I'm like, hey, I got 3 doors across the front that really need to be stripped and all this other
We need him
woodwork.
for too many other projects.
Yeah, he's got to do the fine work.
Yeah.
That'll be the work I can do
Exactly.
once we finally get the cottage done.
Yeah. Now, one thing that we had done that we had done.
Some.
Was it? It was right before our first Restoring
Yes.
Hope weekend.
Yes. Which actually, can you believe it'll be a year ago next
A
weekend?
year ago. Oh, is that next
Next
weekend?
weekend.
Okay, yeah,
It's
the
a
middle
year
of
ago.
August. Wow.
I cannot believe it's been a year since we all got together for that first party.
The heat
Like,
today feels like
It does.
that.
It does.
But so we had, before that weekend, we had Jacob, and he came and he cleared off about 10 feet or so back into the woods. The woods are really
They're encroaching.
fast, and so we're kind of doing that slowly. So he did that. Well, he came back again here a couple weeks ago
Yeah.
and did another 15 feet or so.
Yeah.
And also spread some dirt in front of the cottage, which we're going to try to get some grass there in front of that cottage, but right now we're having some dirt work done. So he came
Yeah.
and did all of that,
Sorry, go ahead.
cleared off a little path because eventually also we're going to put a little road down to the cottage and a little parking pad.
Yeah, so that when you come see us and you stay in the cottage, you'll have a place to park. One of the reasons we don't have the cottage video ready for, I know we thought we were going to have it ready for you like last week. Cottage is going to be finished. The cottage is mostly finished, but there is a lot of drainage and dirt work that needs to be done before it's like finished, and we really want to show it to you with grass in the front yard.
Yeah.
Now we may not be able to. You may still have to see it with dirt in the front yard because I want that to be our next big video. But it's so close, and I cannot wait for you to see what we have turned that
It's,
hoarder.
what did Mimi say?
What does she keep saying?
It's adorable.
It's
or
adorable.
It's just adorable.
The executive
really
director
is.
emeritus of the Historic Natchez Foundation came down, and it was so funny because we saved this cottage because of Carter and Mimi. Carter and Mimi both said, please save this cottage. I don't think they had any idea how bad it was. I don't think they would have asked that of us if they had known that it is now probably 2/3 new. But they really wanted us to save it because it was added to the structure in 1926. So it's really heavily linked to Catherine Miller's period. And we have taken what was a crumbling, rotten, falling down. It was
Hoarder cottage.
it was the worst thing I've ever seen.
The creepy hoarder cottage.
Yeah.
I don't think that's bad enough for
No.
how bad it was.
It should have.
You
it-
wouldn't get within 20 feet of it because of the smell.
No. And now I'm going to live in it, and it's so cute. I can't wait to live in it. It is so cute, and
It's just got,
it's definitely the biggest transformation we've ever done. It's in the smallest space, but it is by far.
and yeah, and it's tough to say because it is so small. I mean, it's like 580 square feet, something
Yeah.
like that. But, I mean, it had all new electrical, all new plumbing, new roof, new flooring,
Almost all new foundation.
painting, new bathroom, new kitchen, new appliances. I mean, we have worked hard on this thing and spent a lot of money.
I would also like to say it has an only foundation and it's still not level, okay?
Right.
It's never going to be level when it's
Yeah.
over 100 years old. It's
Yeah.
just not going to be.
So that's where we are on the cottage. And we can't wait to show it to you.
We're so anxious.
But it will be another minute. We still have a lot of work
Yeah.
to do.
We know that this is maybe a less exciting project for you to watch right now because we're not doing as much of the work and things are not happening quickly. When you're doing just a rehabilitation where you're inside and you're hanging wallpaper and you're fixing plaster and you're stripping paint, those are things that we can show you every week. This is a colossal undertaking and it's just going to take a minute and it's going to require commitment on all of our parts to stay interested.
I mean, you take the siding, you know, we may show it on this video for 3 or 4 minutes, but in actuality, I mean, it was 3 to 4 weeks at least of
Yeah.
hard work, big machinery.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was a big deal.
And again, I felt so bad for those guys doing the siding because I know I keep harping on the fact that the house isn't level, but it's not only is it not level, it's twisted. So obviously you want the siding to visually appear level, and it does. But for them to get it to visually appear level, you have to just do a line and
Yeah.
get that line a plumb, you know, string a line, pop a line, get it as level as you can, and go from there. And then just stand back and be like, okay, it still
How
looks
does it
level.
look?
Okay, it still looks
Yeah,
level.
yeah, yeah.
Because if you put a level on it,
And
that ain't gonna work.
It's all fun and games until you get up to the top where the fascia is, because then it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Well,
and
it's-
truly on one end, there may be 5 inches of cladding, and at the other end, it may be 1.5 inches right at the top. Nobody's ever going to see it, but that's just because,
that's what we're dealing with.
again, it's nearly 300 years old. It is twisting, it is settling, it is falling. So these projects that look like, why on earth would it take that long to slap some siding up on a house? Everything.
Yeah, we need one of those "Please pardon our progress"
Yes.
signs out there or something
Yes.
like that.
Or put them on every one of these restoration videos.
Yes.
Please pardon our progress.
Well, thanks for being with us, guys. That's where we are today.
Big changes.
We've come a long way. We've come a long way.
Monumental changes.
And hopefully within the next week or 2 or 3 or 8, we'll be able to show you the cottage before and after. And that will be a big before and after. It will be satisfying. And
Yes.
I think you'll be real happy to see that. And it is adorable.
It is adorable. Mimi Miller gives it her adorable stamp
That's
of approval.
right. That's right. And you guys are adorable. Thanks for following along. Share this video. Give us a like. Give us a comment. Thanks for being there for us. We will see you next time.